an unprecedented strike, the United States has unleashed the full force of its arsenal targeting the Iran's most secured nuclear facilities. This is not just about warning, it's about the thunderous message from Washington, D.C. that it stands down or face annihilation. Now, backed by Israeli coordination, B-2 stealth bomber flew undetected, delivering GBU-57 bunker busters with surgical precision today. Natanz, Fordo and Isfahan lie in ruins right now, and the Middle East stands on the edge of this crisis. Well, as far as the conflict between Israel and Iran is concerned, it has entered the day 10th, and now United States has formally entered this conflict with the destruction of 3 nuclear facilities today, including Fordo, Isfahan, and the other facility in Iran as well. Well, I'm also joined by my colleague Rakshita. Rakshita, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Akanksha. We have a special guest joining us right now as the situation escalates. We have Oren Marmorstein, who is the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Israel is live with us. Thanks so much, Mr. Oren Marmorstein. Well, the situation is escalating now as the United States has entered the fray. We see that Iranian regime now. We see Tehran now warning of further strikes. Also talks about everlasting consequences. But the fact that how it could spiral out, how do you see United States' role here?
It's good to be with you on the show. What we've seen in the last night, I think, is very clear. We've seen the United States acting as the leader of the free world and acting to remove an existential threat, not only to Israel, but to the entire world. This is what the United States did. And I think we've just watched the Secretary of Defense press conference. It was quite clear the objective, and it's quite clear the impact of the American operation last night.
So what do you understand of the impact on the nuclear facilities, the fact that Fordo has been on Israel's radar for the longest time, and now US has bombed that site? Trump says that these nuke facilities, including Natanz, has been obliterated. What, in your knowledge, has been the impact? Have they been completely rendered obliterated?
So the American President Trump, Secretary of Defense, they related to this. Yeah, they said very clearly that they are very, very much pleased with the results. And yes, I think what we've seen last night perhaps might turn out to be a turning point for the Middle East in general, because we might be at a new position, perhaps a turning point that might pave the way for peace and prosperity. And this is because of the American operation last night, and of course an operation that started a few days earlier, the Israeli operation, that has 2 main objectives. The first objective is to remove the nuclear threat, and the second objective is to remove the ballistic missile threat. Just today, the Iranian had another attack of ballistic missiles against Israeli cities, against civilians. I spent the morning with my wife and 2 daughters, one at the age of 9, the other at the age of 12, in the bomb shelter, because the Iranian regime is attacking civilians. I'm a civilian, and I live in a civilian neighborhood, yet the Iranian regime is attacking our cities.
Mr. Marmorstein, I would like to understand from you, when the Israeli army says that it has other goals in Iran and that it will continue to act until they attain them. Is the Israeli army also somewhere pointing towards the Iranian regime? Because that has also been the goal, as very time and again pointed out by the US, by Israel also.
So we were very clear about this. The goal of this operation like I said just now, is to remove two existential threats, the nuclear one and the ballistic missile one. A regime change is not part of the objective. It might be one of the results, but it's not one of the objective of the Israeli operation. And I think that what you said about the Israeli military, the Israeli army continuing its operation, it's very much true, because the work is still there to be done. There's still work to be done. We haven't finished the job, and we need to continue until this existential threat is removed. And I want to remind the viewers that we are operating, we are at this point of time because of two reasons. First, all the diplomatic efforts didn't achieve anything, because what Iran did also in the last few days was only one thing: to stall and to waste the time of the international community in order to get themselves closer and closer to the bomb. So this is one thing that we need to remember. The other thing that we need to remember is that we operated at the very last minute. We operated at the 11th hour because we didn't have any other choice. The Iranians were getting closer to the bomb. And I can share with the viewers that we know that what happened in just recent months is that Iran accelerated their operation in the enrichment area and also in the weaponization area of their nuclear program. And they did so after the hit that Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, and Hezbollah, the terrorist organization, received from Israel. So when they realized that their proxy, their terrorist long arm called Hezbollah was hit, they decided to accelerate their operation to get their hands around a nuclear weapon. So we got to the very last moment for us to operate in order to stop them. And what we're doing is, of course, making Israel and the Middle East safer. But what we are doing, and what the United States just did last night, is making the world safer. And this is something I think all of us need to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Mr. Oren, stay on with us. In fact, we have breaking news coming in. There are a few reports just a while back. What they mentioned is that explosion was also heard at the Bushehr province, which is the home to a nuclear reactor there. Now, it is said that this nuclear reactor is run with the Russian assistance. Let me come back to you, Mr. Oren. Now, in the last 12 hours, 3 nuclear sites have been attacked by the coordinated efforts of the United States with Israel. Are you eyeing this particular nuclear reactor as well, that we are learning is run with the assistance of Russians as well?
Well, I can tell you, we need to look into those recent reports that you mentioned. But I can tell you that to this point in time, there is no radioactive damage in the area of Iran. Israel operated, the US operated, but there is no radioactive damage because those activities, for example, the activity against a reactor in a place called Arak, it was done against a nuclear reactor that wasn't active. Hence, there is no radioactive damage. And this is, by the way, it's not only Israel account, it's the IAEA, the Atomic Agency of the United Nations, saying so as well. No radioactive damage or repercussion that were identified.
Mr. Marmorstein, there's another scenario because everybody's speculating what can really happen next. This could spiral out in West Asia. Another threat is for Israel that the axis of resistance which could be now activated. There is the Hezbollah, and there are the Houthis in Yemen. You have more Shiite militias also in Iraq, and the Hamas, of course, in Gaza. That could be now activated more than ever by the Iranians. So what is Israel's plan to counter that?
But you're right. There is this axis of extremists, of evil, that the head of the snake is in Tehran, the Iranian regime. And you mentioned right, Hezbollah, the Houthis, of course Hamas, they are all part of this Iranian axis, this axis of evil. And they are trying to carry out terror attacks against Israel. I can share with you, with the viewers, that just yesterday it was published that Iran, through their IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, tried to attack Israelis in Cyprus. So Iran is trying to push forward terror attacks in Israel, outside Israel, and mainly they are targeting all the time civilian objectives, civilian targets. And yes, we are ready. We are ready to thwart these attacks and these attempts to carry out terror attacks. And all of this was part of a very detailed plan of Iran to annihilate, to destroy the state of Israel. It had 3 dimensions. The first dimension was the nuclear one. The second dimension was the ballistic missile one. Iran was trying to achieve capabilities of producing more than 10,000 ballistic missiles. This is unheard of, unbelievable, and unimaginable when it comes to country the size of Israel. So that's the second dimension of the Iranian plan to destroy Israel. And the third dimension is to invade Israel using those proxies, those terrorist organizations that you mentioned, like Hezbollah, like the Houthis, like Hamas. All of this was part of a pre-planned program to destroy the state of Israel. This will not work. Israel is tackling this program, and this is what this operation is all about, to make sure that this existential threat emanating from Iran is no longer here.
Question before I let you go. Donald Trump has warned Iran against any retaliation, but we have seen attack on Israel in the last 12 hours, and it remains to be seen where Iran attacks the US assets as far as the conflict is concerned. Are you prepared for any such attack? Are you anticipating any such attack on the US assets as well in that region?
So of course, I'm an Israeli official. I relate to Israeli operations, and I've just seen, as I've mentioned earlier, the United States Secretary of Defense relating to the US operation and preparation. So I think it's safe to say that Israel is prepared, and judging from the US administration, the Americans are prepared. We are all very much prepared, and I must say that the effect of what happened yesterday is huge. We are at the moment entering perhaps a turning point in the Middle East that might lead us to a better, peaceful scenario, a peaceful and a more prosperous future for the countries in the Middle East.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Oren, spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel, for speaking to Republic TV. Also, thank you to Rakshita for joining us.
Thank you.
Now shifting our focus to Iran. Iran executed its most significant missile barrage of the year against Israel early this morning as part of Operation True Promise 3. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps confirmed that the strikes were launched in response to the recent US and Israeli airstrikes on the Iranian territory, marking a dangerous escalation in the ongoing West Asian conflict that has also entered the second week. Here's more.
Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard said it has launched 40 missiles including its Khorramshahr 4 missile, targeting Ben Gurion Airport, biological research centers and command and control facilities. Iran has said that the Khorramshahr 4 carry multiple warheads. The Khorramshahr 4 has the heaviest payload of Iran's ballistic missile fleet, which is designed to keep the weapon under a 2,000-kilometer range limit imposed by the country's supreme leader. The missile has been described as having a 2,000-kilometer range with a 1,500-kilogram warhead. Earlier in the day, the US military struck 3 sites in Iran, inserting itself into Israel's effort to decapitate Iran's nuclear program. The decision to directly involve the US comes after more than a week of strikes by Israel that have moved to systematically eradicate the country's air defenses while damaging its nuclear enrichment facilities.
We don't just get you the headlines, we report on them. We get information from the highest level of sources. We get you news from the men in uniform, from those on the front. At Republic School of Journalism, you will learn how real reporting is done on the ground and in real time. The RSG Diploma course begins on June 30th. If you want to lead the story, start here.
Hi, this is Chef Ranveer Brar. Guarantee you brilliance on behalf of IIHM.
आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
आपकी फेवरेट हुंडई कार्स पर मिल रही है अमेजिंग डील्स। वैसे लोगे तो आप हुंडई ही, चाहे दिल की सुनो या डील्स की, तो जल्दी चले आओ हुंडई शोरूम।
दादी के हाथों का जादू और खुशबू से महकता घर, माँ की मुस्कुराहट और खाने की सुगंध। MDH गरम मसाला,
क्योंकि हर रिश्ता है स्वाद से जुड़ा।
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs.
That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before, and we've gone a long
Well, Iran's foreign ministry declared that the United States has launched a dangerous war against Iran by striking its nuclear facility, calling this the act of betrayal of diplomacy and a violation of the international law. The statement shared by the news agency held the US fully responsible for the grave consequences of what it described as a heinous crime. It also warned that Iran reserves the right to defend itself by all necessary means. Iran also urged the UN, including IAEA and the Security Council, to urgently respond to what it called was a breach of international norms. The Israeli military has confirmed that its air force carried out a fresh wave of airstrikes on western Iran, marking its first direct action since the US struck Iranian nuclear facilities. According to the IDF, the strikes targeted military positions, including missile launchers and Iranian armed forces.